Good evening, y'all. So we went earlier and harvested out on the homestead, and I told you from there I was going to take you into the kitchen. Tonight is one of my nights that I am doing a Mediterranean yet somewhat low carb. Now, I'll be eating, actually for me, now the reason I choose beans, again, I am using quinoa beans, which is considered white kidney beans, and if I'm not mistaken, I had already done a video on this already. They are the most amazing flavor. The thing about beans, and in some instances, certain types can be okay for a diabetic, but in small portions of it. These are one of those carbohydrates that break down slowly. It is not a simple carb. It is considered a complex, one that breaks down over time, slower to digest, amazing fiber, and just so much more nutrients. So if I were to eat, for me, myself, to be able to eat a carb, these are my best type. Not ones that go straight to my blood sugar or straight to my hips. These do break down. So I am actually going to have this tonight. And like I said, I believe I've already done a video on that. What I am actually going to be doing, I've told you that I had purchased the Mediterranean dish cookbook. I absolutely love Suzy's recipes. She is teaching me how to eat so much healthier, more ways that I ever known, and on top of that, the flavor boost that I am getting, there's like a party in my mouth all the time. So tonight I'm going to take you on that side with me, and we are going to be making some bass. Now she uses haddock fillets, but I actually have a whitefish. I have fresh caught bass. It's whole, and I am going to be using that in my dish. So, and I'm going to add the ingredients from the recipe to this, but I'm going to choose this as my fish meal. With this, I am going to be serving my quinoa beans for me, and probably a fattoush salad without the pita. For my husband, he can do really well with the fattoush salad, and he will probably have green beans, unless he decides, and he's been eating my quinoa beans with me. I'm going to assume he'll probably choose that. He gets a small portion of it. He does absolutely fine. His blood sugar never reaches over 140, and sometimes you can keep it at 120. So I'm going to assume, honestly, he's going to choose that because he really does like the flavor to it as well. So let's get started on this fish. Okay, I'm actually patting my fish dry. Again, this was fresh caught bass, so I'm actually patting them dry at the moment, and I am going to be seasoning these with my seasonings. Some of the ingredients that I am going to be using is I am going to be using some purple onions instead of shallots. I'm going to be using some marinated artichoke quarters and artichoke hearts. I'm going to be using some green olives, some tomato halves, some kamata olives, because I'm going to add these to my salads too. Just like in my salads and my fattoush, instead of adding pita, I'm actually going to be adding avocados, the good fats. So this is basically what Mediterranean is. It's a lot of vegetables sometimes, good sources of lean meats, and so like I said, we do both, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. You're going to get recipes, and I understand it's not for everybody, but you're going to get recipes from the Mediterranean side, you're going to get recipes from the low carb side, and basically even the low carb side can use these products. I know for a fact because my husband absolutely has to live low carb, diabetic, and he can eat these meals with me. That's proof in itself, y'all. It works. So let me go ahead and get my ingredients started, and we will get this going. Okay, remember me talking about that oregano, y'all? Here it is. And you've seen how much more I still have. This is amazing. I do not have to buy oregano. I love growing my own herbs. So I'm going to need about a teaspoon of this. And how I'm using this, I can powder this if I wanted to. But I'm going to put this in my hands like so. I'm just going to rub it together and create a mix to use towards my fish. Breaking it down. Not so much as a powder, but just breaking these down. The flavor that this gives me versus store-bought is absolutely amazing. Okay, so there's my oregano. I'm going to use about a teaspoon of ground coriander. And I'm putting this all inside of a dish because I'm going to be rubbing this on my fish here in a bit. So I'm going to get my coriander. She uses what's known as a lapo pepper. I don't have that, so I'm actually going to be using my homegrown sweet paprika and some ground or crushed red peppers in here just for a little bit of a kick. So I'm using about a teaspoon, and that is my homegrown paprika. I actually have some of those peppers out there because I definitely needed more. So I'm just going to add about a half a teaspoon or less of the red pepper just to give it some spice. Now I'm going to take and mix this all together. And what I'm going to end up doing now is rubbing this on my fish. Each side right now I'm going to do with a little bit of salt and pepper. And yes, I am using whole fish. But to also flavor that meat, I'm actually going to score my meat, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. I'm actually going to take my knife, and I'm not sure if you can see this, but I'm going to take it, I'm just going to make a cut score across the skin. I'll bring this to you to show you, just like this, and I'm scoring this fish so that that flavor will go inside the meat. So I'm going to do this for all of them. And I'm going to do this on both sides, actually. It just helps me to be able to get that flavoring inside this fish. Alright, and that's it. Now, wash my hands here right quick. Alright, y'all, now I'm going to season this first with salt and pepper on both sides. Now she uses a white wine in this dish, and I'm actually going to be using broth instead of wine. Basically, I could use the wine, but because it gets cooked out. But with my husband being diabetic, I try not to use wine due to the sugar content. So it's not about the alcohol as it is the sugar content in it. So I substitute my wine with a broth. Now if this was just for me, I would use the white wine. And for those who actually want to do this recipe, you're using a good couple pounds of white fish. Now for something like this, about a half a cup of white wine would work. So the more fish you have, the more white wine you would want to use it, and then be able to let it render down a little bit. So now I am actually going to start coating my fish with my seasonings here. On both sides. Oh, y'all, this is going to be amazing. And I'm actually going to put it in the insides here so it will season this meat. Oh, wow, this is going to be amazing. Okay, so I'm going to wash my hands again, and we're going to get this started. Be right with y'all. Alright, so I am actually going to start this on a medium high. I'm going to be using olive oil and about a tablespoon of butter for this. Just enough to coat my bottom. Now I'm not going to use a whole lot of butter, but about a tablespoon is good enough. And that's pretty much what I had left on this piece right here. I'm going to get this melted down. Then we're going to add our next ingredients. Now I do not have shallots. I'm going to set this aside right now. I do not have shallots, so I am actually going to be using a purple onion. And I'm actually going to mince this down. I had some left over, so I'm just going to use this up and add that to my, which will come out to about the same size as using a shallot. So I'm just going to finish using this whole thing and mince it up basically. Dice it. Y'all, this is going to be such a beautiful dish in the end. Cut this very end off here, and that will be it. Alright, so we're going to wait for this to come on down, melt, and we will be right back. Okay, y'all, so at this point I'm going to go ahead and add my onions or shallots. I am adding 3 cloves of garlic to this, and I'm just going to get this enough till it brings out that flavor, brings out that scent and their oils. Then I'm going to add the fish. I'm just going to stir this around right quick. I do not want this to go any further and a lot more cooking on it. Now I'm going to go ahead at this point and add my fish to this. I'm actually going to pour these seasonings on top of it and get all my flavors in here. Now this broth is my home canned broth. Mix this around in here and coat this fish on both sides. Oh, y'all, this dish will not take very long either. I just want to kind of get it slightly golden on both sides here, and then I'm going to add my broth. Get those seasonings cooked on that skin. Such amazing, amazing flavors. And yes, this is skinned. You can use a skinless. It's both ways. These are just what I'm using. This is what I have available for us. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm probably going to use about a 1/4 cup of chicken broth here. Or a 1/2 cup actually. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and let this be covered and cooked for just a few minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to prep the rest of the ingredients. Okay, so I just let this heat up a little bit. Now I'm going to add these ingredients to this. This way I can wash these off right quick. This way I can get these flavors incorporated into this as well. The last will be adding the parsley and the dill that we picked earlier and harvested. So right now I'm going to be adding some of these half-quartered artichokes to this dish. If you are interested in case some of you may ask, well, how many carbs are in the artichoke hearts? According to this, 3/4 approximately drained is 1 gram of carb. There is absolutely no sugars, y'all. Okay, so now my next ingredient, I am going to be adding some sliced olives to this. And I am going to be using 2 sources. I'm going to be using Kalamata olives, and I am going to be using some green olives. This adds that much of a little briny flavor to this. My mouth waters, y'all, because I've already tried food like this already, and I already know what it's going to taste like. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I'm just cutting these in half, as you can see, and just putting them here within my dish. And now I'm going to get some of the green olives and do the exact same thing with them. Next will be some chopped tomatoes that I'm going to add to this. And I am actually going to use some cherry tomatoes. Ooh, that olive disappeared too. There it is. Alright, and that's enough of those. Now I'm going to get a couple cherry tomatoes and I'm going to add that to this. Again, I'm going to chop these in half and add that to this dish. Just like so. Not a whole lot of everything, just a little bit here and there of everything, I guess you could say. One more will do on that. And now I'm going to take a lemon. I'm actually going to zest this lemon. Now, that is not in the recipe. I am going to add the lemon zest myself to this fish, just to get a little more of a lemony flavor. So I'm just going to add this zest to my mix in here across my fish. I happen to really love lemon, and lemon and fish are absolutely amazing. And then when I'm done, I'm actually going to be juicing this. Let's get this. I'm using the whole thing on here. I don't know. When it comes to fish, I don't think you can ever use too much lemon. Alright, and there's my zest. So it wants to stick to it. And then I'll cut this in half, and then I'm going to squeeze this with my squeezer. Now I'm just going to spread this all over the top of my fish. And I'm going to use the whole entire thing on it. Just to give me a little bit more out of my lemons. And now I'm going to seal this with the lid until they're fork tender or they flake apart. And at that point, I'm going to finish with the rest of our ingredients. Okay, y'all, so here was our fresh dill and our fresh parsley. So at this point, I'm going to take it, while this is still cooking a little bit, I'm going to take a good portion of this. And I'm going to start chopping this up because I'm going to add this to the flavoring towards our fish. And yes, while the stems are quite tender, stems still have flavoring as well. So I had pretty much used up all the dill I had in my freezer, so I'm actually going to use fresh. I've actually grown this so that I could do that with it. So I'm adding just a little bit of the stalks to my freshness on this. And then I am going to be using about half of that parsley with the fish. The other half is probably going for my, or will be going for my bean meal, which I will be cooking that next. And I do believe that I have done that recipe, and I will probably, just for those who might not have seen it, I'll link to it where you can get that video to watch as well. So now I'm just going to take both of these. I'm prepping so that I can add this to my dish as soon as it is done. Also, again, with this, I want some of the stems, because those stems can also bring some flavor as well. Not a whole lot of them. And that's it. So now I wait for my fish to get done. And then I will show you the finished product of this entire meal. Okay, so our fish is now finished. Now I'm just going to put the finishing touches in here as we put on our fresh dill. And then our fresh parsley. Oh, y'all. This is an amazing, amazing dish. So let me bring you up closer to see. And there we have it, y'all. A beautiful garlicky, lemony flavored whitefish that's out of this world. Flavor, I tasted it. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to have this with supper tonight. I am going to be, like I said, I'm going to be serving them with some of my cannoli beans. And that's going to be with some garlic and Parmesan cheese, and then some fattoush salad. So I hope you enjoyed this meal. I will include her recipe with the fact is it is from the Mediterranean dish. I will give her credit with her recipe, so it is not mine. I'm just sharing it with you because I thought this was an amazing dish to share. So until next time, much love from Parton's Heritage Homestead.